Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, thank you, Mr. Producer. We are back, and I am joined by Brooksy Wells. Brooksy, welcome to the program. So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too. I've heard so much about you. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you because you have, and if I have this correct, three albums straight in the top 10 in the folk charts in this country. You had Stop Time,
Yes.
and then you had three in a row. Am I right on that?
That's correct. For the Folk Alliance International charts, starting in 2015, and then 2019, and then 2021, all three of my albums made it to the top 10. And I'm going to say, don't you tell, but I'm in my 60s. And this is part of the message I have, is that you can recreate yourself and get out there and have a wonderful time as an older artist if you find the right method, the right place, the right genre. And that's what happened for me. So that's kind of what I'm sharing with the world, is this wonderful ability to have a later life success. So that's a lot of fun.
It sounds awesome. Now, and I want to get into everything you're doing now. I know that you have this other project that you're doing now. It's called Kitchen Table Consulting, but we'll get there. But I want to know how your intuition played a part in your very successful music career. Just take me back how this whole thing started, if you don't mind.
Okay. When I was 19 years old, I was at Hofstra University in New York, and a guy came into my room and said, "Do you want to make a record?" And I said, "Okay." And I went to New York, and Bobby Darin, do you remember him? Bobby.
I was going to ask you about that.
He signed me. Yeah, he signed me to a songwriting deal in New York, and then guess what happened? He died 6 months later.
Oh, wow.
So the career that I thought I was going to have, which was like a Stevie Nicks or somebody like that, a Linda Ronstadt, didn't happen because the man who was to mentor me passed away very young at 36 years old. So there I was in New York, and I ended up doing a lot of music. I was in Kid Creole and the Coconuts, which was kind of a famous band in Europe. And I did their first album, sang backup, did all kinds of things, but really didn't get the career that I thought I was going to get. And things got a little hectic, and I ended up moving back to the South, to Virginia, because I was born originally in Atlanta.
Okay.
And marrying my drummer and having two children. So I'm going to tell you something. You cannot nurse and rock at the same time. It doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out that way. Okay, that's good to know.
So I became a children's musician, and for many years I performed. My biggest fans were 5 years old, and I worked with little kids for many years while my children were young. But as they got older, I wanted to get back in the music business. And sadly, although I'm good friends with my ex-husband, I got divorced, and I thought, well, I could kill myself, buy a new car, or make a record. I decided to make a record, and it got nominated for a Washington Area Music Award. This was back about 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I guess I'm back in the music business, because I called in some favors from people in the old days. I had worked with people like Larry Williams, who was Al Jarreau's keyboard player, and Ricky Simpkins, who played for Emmylou Harris. People had always liked my work. I just had never been very famous or particularly popular. People didn't know who I was except for close friends. So I eventually just started looking for help to find a larger audience. And while I was doing that, I started to teach intuition. And I taught it at the Chautauqua Institute for 10 years with my dear friend, Nina Gibson, because once you have a child, you begin to believe in miracles. That's just true.
Wow.
And I began to believe that I could follow guidance and I could get out of my own way. Also, I got sober. I got sober 35 years ago. So I have been in recovery all this time also. So I've been working on myself and doing things that make me happy and make me feel better and all that kind of good stuff. Mm-hmm. So I just got over any kind of fear that I might have of making the music that I believed in. And through the work with the intuition, which was learning how to, meditate, learning how to be more conscious of realizing the present, that kind of thing, I ended up writing some music and finding a manager. Her name is Carrie Estrin. She was Tony Rice's manager for many years and also worked with the Philadelphia Folk Festival, founded the Southeast Regional Folk Alliance. And guess what she did?
What?
She answered the phone. Now, nobody answers the phone anymore. You know what I mean? Nobody answers the phone. She answered the phone. And I said, and I told her a little bit about myself, and I wasn't famous. I had, some music, but I wasn't really famous. And I said, but I'm an intuitive. And she said, me too. It's kind of woo-woo for Nashville, but I am one. And so she ended up signing me as a client, and I worked with her, and she helped me to find a genre that would work for me, which was a folk genre, because they're much more appreciative of acoustic older artists. And she helped me with the music. So I built a team. And that's another thing. No success is really done alone. Right. You've worked on shows with other people. They don't do it by themselves.
Right.
So we have to help each other. And so I got the help that I needed, both creatively and also as far as business is concerned, because business wasn't my big thing. I'm good at being a mom. I'm a really good cook. There are things I can do that I'm very good. I can write a song. But when it comes to business, I was raised as a Southern lady who didn't have to do business. Husbands were supposed to do that, in the olden days. So I got someone to help me do that and was able to then focus my attention on the music, find the right players. I've used some incredible musicians on my records. Frank Sullivan, he's Grammy nominated, from Frank Sullivan, Dirty Kitchen, played on one of my records. Ronnie McCory played on, Del McCory's son, 5-time Grammy winner. He played on one of my records. And I co-wrote a song with Louisa Branscombe, who wrote Steel Rails for Alison Krauss. So I've had the blessing to play and work with some phenomenal musicians who like my work. And they trusted me enough to work with me. And of course I paid them, and I spent all my retirement money on music, because one doesn't become rich as a folk singer. But I did make the charts on my 3 albums once I started working with the right team and making the right decisions about what kind of music might be appropriate. And one thing Carrie said to me, she said, Brooksy, they don't know you. They don't know how old you are. They don't know any of that stuff. So the music has to speak for itself. So sometimes you have to fit in, with the genre that you're working with first. And then once you have a little success, you can kind of be more creative and more adventurous with the kinds of choices that you make for being a musician. So that's always been something that I like.
I got
So
you. Now,
what
you
else
mentioned,
do you want to know?
Well, you mentioned about being an intuitive. Is that the same thing as being an empath? I know that you're both, but are they the same thing, and how are they different?
They're different. Well, I think everyone is an intuitive. Everybody has intuition. I mean, it's Einstein said it was the highest form of intellect. And my first course in intuition that I wrote was called Intuition, the Flip Side of Intellect. And we learn how to listen to that inner guidance that's been there. There's some wonderful book. There's one called Blink, which talks about the science of all this. It's not just, spirituality and all that. It can also be science of how the kind of impressions we make instantly with each other, how things that we pick up on each other, that kind of thing. But in addition, it's learning how to really listen and defining your intuitive voice, which is separate from fear. It's not the same. It's good to understand, to be able to pick up on if you're scared of somebody in the elevator in New York. We used to learn that when we were doing, background singing in the city where the girls were by themselves.
Oh, wow.
That's really important to learn, to be aware. But it's also about really learning to trust your inner guidance, to pay attention. And it's very hard to do if you're racing around, if you're drinking a lot, if you're drugging a lot, if you're doing things that avoid being well-centered. It can make it difficult.
I got it.
But if you take a minute and do that work, then what happens is everybody in your life starts to change. Things start to change. You start to be part of that law of attraction, where the people that are coming into your life are different, are more interesting, are more focused on what you're focused on. And that's what happened to me. I can only, because this isn't an exact science that I can sit down and write down, this is exactly what happened. And my son, by the way, I have a son, he's 31. He's a physicist with a PhD from Drexel. My daughter is an environmental engineer with a master's from UVA. So we're scientific people. We're not throwing out the science and all that. I'm all for science. But what I have learned is that the head and the heart need to work together.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get that going, things get really interesting. And that's kind of what happened to me. So as I worked with the intuition work with my friend Nina, who is a trained shaman, Nina Gibson, she's also worked on the space shuttle and is a chief engineer with the FAA. Wow. So it's we both, really believe in modern science and all the great things that are going on. But what we don't do is throw out the baby with the bathwater, mm-hmm. so to speak. So that's the kind of thing that I use my intuitive voice. I learned, I define it, I figure out what it is. I sit back and I learn to pay attention to it. And then I check in. So for example, I would go, Casey, guess what just happened today? Mm-hmm. I was listening and I really think something is up for me as far as being on your show. I don't know why I made this decision exactly, but I decided to follow guidance and listen to it and come on your show because I felt that it could be useful to me and maybe, God willing, useful to you. Mm-hmm. That's how I do all my work. I don't separate business from people. That's just not how I do my thing. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to be of service to many, many people who needed help. They were transitioning in life or trying to come off alcohol or whatever the situation was, because I hold up a mirror to women, and mostly women, and I witness to women their value. How valuable are you? And I refuse to be invisible because I'm older. I am healthy and happy and love life. And age is part of the advantage of being who I am. So it's been an awesome journey so far. And
as being an intuitive, as the years go by, do you find the intuition has become stronger? You learn to trust yourself more? And the other thing I wanted to know was, when you were changing, did some relationships have to leave? Did some people have to leave when your frequency was coming up and you were attracting a different type of person?
Absolutely. That's absolutely what happened. I was a very dear friend of a woman, I should say, because we're older now, whose husband was a very big mogul in Hollywood. And I won't name any names specifically, but she fell out of my life after a while. I mean, and I had traveled with her to overseas. I had been in Los Angeles with her. We had written some things together, but she evolved out of my life. No hard feelings, but yes, that's absolutely something that does occur. Mm-hmm. What happens is my mother, Rolene, her name was Rolene, she was a Southern lady. Okay. And my mother used to say, just because a relationship is finite doesn't make it any less meaningful.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Yeah.
Think about it. It's real important. And, that's part of what I try to do today is when I'm working with individuals, which I do sometimes. Sometimes I work with them, with other musicians, artists, to help them produce records and stuff. I like to think I have a little company also called Wildcard Development, and we've been working on a film about the life of Bill Monroe. We're also working on some other films that I'm music supervisor. So I do some very interesting things with my company. But what we like to do is help people to kind of, what did Emerald used to say? Kick it up a notch.
Kick it up a notch, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many things I want to ask you and talk to you about, but I do want to know what this kitchen table consulting is, and this is something new that you're working on. I want to hear about this because it's a little departure from what we know, Brooksy.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. In the last couple of years, what I have been trying to do is combine my music career with my intuitive work, because I feel like that the music career was a result of the intuitive work. And what I would like to be able to do is offer individuals and groups as well, corporate things like that, the opportunity to look at how I did that. Why was I successful in, in my 60s, 3 top 10 folk records? What did I do right? And these are questions. And also, I've been on a couple of these podcasts with younger folk, especially women, and they're like, we want to be you when we get older. And I'm like, I know. Why? Because I still love life. I'm still adorable. I mean, I came on here so you could see. I look younger than my age, which is also very useful. Although I own every year because I think it's been a gift, especially because I've been sober all these years. Before I even had my children, I got sober. So that's a big deal for me. But, what I'm doing is I was trying to think, and I was talking to one of my mentors the other day, and I said, well, most of my best work's done at the kitchen table. And he went, wait a minute. That's what you do, Brooksy. That's how you communicate. It's that kitchen table, down home, one at a time, one thing at a time, keep it in the moment, enjoy your life. And also let's cook something, or let's talk about getting our nails done. It's also part of it. I don't take myself too seriously. And a big part of that is my father died at 60. I'm almost 70, and all this time is a gift. I get to have a third act. A lot of people don't get this opportunity.
Yeah.
So if you're like me and you want to have a good time and you want to stay in the moment, and that way I'm not diminishing spiritually, mentally, physically, or emotionally. I am only growing. So that's how the intuition work will combine with the music work, which is basically, that was my venue. That was what I did. I've always been a musician. I've been playing piano since I was 5 years old. I've been playing guitar since I was 13. I've been songwriting my whole life. I've written songs for little kids. I have an album out for children called Pineapples, Butterflies, and Dinosaurs, as well as my other folk records. But that was my path. My question to you is, what's your path?
Right.
Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Where do you want to take your life? And I cannot answer that for you. Only you can answer that. So using your intuitive guides, and they can be whatever your religion is. If you are a Christian and you want to use traditional names and places, good for you. If you want to be non-traditional and go more into spirit and nature and that kind of thing, good for you. It's inclusive rather than exclusive. Anybody can learn to develop their intuitive ability, which will help connect your head with your heart. And then you will have a happier, joyous, free life.
Gotcha. Now, who's the perfect candidate to work with you at the kitchen table consulting area?
I would think mostly people in their later careers, who are looking to shift. What am I going to do now? I've done this for 20 years. What am I going to do now? I do have a following of young people too, though. So there's a skip generation. So it's, we were laughing. My mentor was saying, Brooksy, you're kind of a combination of Arlo Guthrie and Dr. Ruth. Now, older people know who that is. Some of the younger folks didn't even know who Dr. Ruth was, but she used to give sex advice.
Right.
But she was little and she was non-threatening, and people didn't mind her talking about stuff like that because she was not threatening. And I tend to be, I'm little, I'm, older, I'm sweet, my voice isn't rough. I can come across, but I can tell you what's really going on with you.
Yeah.
And tell you your truth and help you to tell yourself your truth, which is really what it's all about. It's about sitting on the fence and watching yourself go by and learning from who you are and what you're doing. Then you can make real changes that can lead you on a path of a better life. Will it be perfect? No. Imperfection is the nature of humanity. And I love imperfection because you learn from it.
Right. Now, are you taking clients now? And if you are, how does that process begin? Do you talk to them first? You do like a consultation to see if you're a good fit? How does it work?
Yes, I mean, I have done a bunch of different kinds of consults. I'm just now starting this whole kitchen table thing. I also I do things like custom songs, and it's mostly an individual will ask for some help, and I will offer it to them. But I have also, over the years, with the intuitive work, I've worked with companies like Johnson and Johnson, big companies, where I can go in and speak, and it be like I call it a keynote concert,
Uh-huh.
where there's a little bit of music, but there's also speaking in order to sort of encourage this kind of conversation that you and I are having, and it can lead to workshops. I can do we do intuition workshops. We've done them on Zoom as well as one in individual places. We call it spiritual Tupperware, where we get together with someone, puts it on, and we can do that. So any one of those paths can work. And I really do enjoy speaking to large groups. That's a lot of fun because the energy is very different. It's holding sacred space for larger groups is a lot of fun. But as far as individual work, usually like groups of 10 is what we do for the intuition.
Okay.
And if someone is interested in putting on a workshop or having me, also Nina Gibson comes with me for intuition to speak. And also I do house concerts, which are really fun. And I'm really looking at combining the intuitive with the music. So there's a lot of that available at the moment because people are burnt out from COVID. They're tired. They want help to reinvent themselves. And it's not even reinvention. It's more rediscovery.
Mm-hmm. I got you. We only have 3 minutes left here, but I at least want to get the audience involved and do one question with the audience. Mr. Producer's got a question from someone in the audience, and then I'll throw it back to you to wrap up. But let's hear from who we got there, Mr. Producer.
All right, we have Angela in New Orleans wants to know, does every person have a destiny?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that we all are unique, and we all, just like a snowflake, we're all unique. That does not mean that every person's destiny is fixed in stone, because I believe we co-create. So it's not like me by myself or some puppet in the sky doing their thing. It's a co-creation, and that doors that we open can lead to another door. So it's really important to pay attention to how things connect or when things happen. So yes, we all have destiny, but it can be evolved into whatever you need it to become once you're open and awake to your own consciousness.
Got it. Well said. Well said. Thank you for that question. Hey, Brooksy, let me give you the last word here. Anything you want to leave us with? It's been so much fun getting to know you and learning from you. And if you can, I'll give you the floor here, and then let us know how to get a hold of you, please.
Okay, I'm Brooksy Wells, and you can reach me at brooksywells.com. It's BROOKSIE, and I'm the only Brooksy Wells in America. So if you Google me, you'll get me and you'll find out all about me. What I'd like to leave you with was a quote from Reverend Forrest Church, who was a friend of mine who passed away a while back. And I wrote a song about this, and he said to me before he passed away, he said, sometimes you have to hear your own words in a different form. And so in the song form, I wrote, want what you have, be who you are, and do what you can. It's in your hands. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.